UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military projects, false flag alien invasions, PSYOP, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join the discussion now on UAP Crossfire.
Good evening to the greatest audience on the planet. Welcome to UAP Crossfire, where we're going to be discussing the latest in UFOs, UAP, and weird stuff going on around the world and in our galaxy. Joining me, Dan Carlson, tonight is Don Ecker. Don, how are things in California?
Really waterlogged, Padre. We've had, it seems like 6 years of nothing but downpours. Today it was doing it again. I just got a notification that this area is on flood watch. So we'll see what happens.
Interesting. Now, I would imagine there's some concern with all that rain on the burn areas, isn't there?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thankfully, our area has not experienced anything like that since 2017. 2017, okay. Well, my wife and I had to evacuate out of this area twice. Once in 2008, again 2017, but we've been fine since then. So it's that wonderful brush clearance that California is so meticulous about, you know.
Oh,
grooming,
yes. Oh, yes.
Grooming the forests.
Yes.
Speaking of grooming, Commander Cobra joins us tonight from his redoubt in the far northeast woods. Good evening, Commander.
Yes, from the northeastern outpost, I bring you greetings and salutations. It's great to see you all. And
nice to have you with us tonight. Chris couldn't be with us tonight. Chris DePerno, he's off on some secret assignment tracking the alien threat. But we have our producer here, Bill. Hi, Bill.
Hello, gentlemen. I just want to wish all of you and your families, friends, neighbors, etc., all those that are viewing and all those that are listening, happy Thanksgiving, since we will not be live next week. So I just wanted to come on and say that to all of you personally, and hope you have a great time.
Producer Skywatcher, I have a question.
Oh, I'm on the spot now. The silverback's going after me. What is it?
My question is this.
You got too close to the bars, child. You got too close to the bars.
Why did I have to call you today to get a link to tonight's show?
Wait a second. If these guys got a link, you were connected to that email.
You did not send me a link. You resent me a link.
I did today, but if these guys got a link early in the week, you were all in on that email. So
I didn't get one earlier in the week. I got one like today or yesterday. So
yeah, yesterday.
Oh, so there it is.
Listen, I'm going to blame it on this. I'm not saying it's aliens, but
we're not even 5 minutes in, and the silverback's flinging poo. Watch out, everybody.
This is what happens when you're out cruising with the rockers. And you leave the rest of us in the dust.
Yes, yes.
You know that line they say, remember those on the way up that you meet as they're on the way down? We're on the down escalator, apparently, gentlemen.
Well, speaking of Stairway to Heaven, we're going to go right into our first story tonight. The fast, late-breaking news on 3I Atlas. NASA came out from behind its orbit of the sun yesterday to deliver a scintillating news conference explaining all we need to know about 3A
surprised
Atlas.
You use that word, Padre. I have a word that begins with S to describe how I thought that went, but please continue. Don't let me interfere.
No, I beg of you. Proceed with your S evaluation of the NASA.
It's sometimes considered bad language. Mm-hmm. It rhymes with duck.
Oh, well, I get it. So you were not impressed by NASA's stuff?
First of all, late to the game. Mm-hmm. Late to the game. They have been dragging their feet on this.
Well, the government was shut down, Commander Cobra.
Absolutely. Correct. And
it was
obviously something like interstellar alien nonsense that has been trooped out at every opportunity has got all kinds of airtime. We are still too busy not to be able to get quality pictures out. And now we have the big rollout. And I mean, I don't want to go, I'm not going to go into the realm of political. I'm ashamed of what we have seen to come out on this part. It's terrible.
I mean, we have cameras that can show us what's on the cereal box 3 galaxies over on their breakfast table, but we can't get a close-up of one of the biggest interstellar object to come into.
How do we know it's the biggest? Because I've been doing some pretty careful following along and study with this, and I'm not convinced that biggest is the way to go. The object is traveling around 200,000 kilometers an hour? That's extremely fast.
130,000 miles an hour. Okay. So 130,000 miles an hour. That means that you could, if you were wanting to take it to the moon, you'd get there in just under 2 hours if you were going that fast in a rocket. So it's
that's the reason why it's not reacting normally to any kind of gravitation. It's on a hyperbolic pathway.
Yep.
But this business it's not a comet, this business that it doesn't behave like a comet, that does not add up. It doesn't add up to the body of science that's out there, astronomers that are talking, but are not getting airtime. I mean, obviously not everyone can be a professor at Harvard, and I guess that's the stamp of excellence these days. That is the only people that get to talk about this. So I'm going to plug the show. Hold on one second. I'm going to plug the show. 2 weeks from now, 4 December, there'll be an announcement going out. We'll have it crafted out for next week. Professor James McCaney's going to be on with us. This will be a big part of the show, and he has a very interesting take. What is going on with this? And I shared with the other hosts the email and conversation that I had with him this morning on this very subject, and I can bring it up in a little bit, but he's got a pretty dim view of what's happening here. And I hope the audience tunes in 2 weeks, because it's going to be very, very interesting with James. And James is a very interesting man of science and engineering with tangible stuff that you can look at and talk about before you actually show up for the show. But I am disappointed in NASA. Very disappointed.
Can I make a couple of remarks about our illustrious federal agency, NASA?
Please do.
Dealing with those people off and on. This is certainly not a continuous thing. Going back to 1988, 89. And in that time, I have ended up shoveling more bullshit from them than one would ever believe. And I'm only going to give you 2 examples of how NASA operates. By the way, NASA, NASA, never a straight answer. Old joke, but it's right on point. Back in 1990-91, when I was beginning my really in-depth lunar research, I was going everywhere. I was talking to everybody I could talk to. Some of the people, for example, were people like Lieutenant Colonel Gordon Cooper, the original Mercury 7 astronaut, who, by the way, was, my God, what a stellar gentleman he was.
Absolutely.
But at any rate, I was talking to all these people, and somebody turned me on to the factoid, and it was exactly that, a factoid, that when our Apollo astronauts went to the moon, and I've said this before on this show, perhaps not everybody here tonight has heard that, but it's God's truth. Those astronauts were armed. Now, I lived through the entire Apollo program. I was a kid in high school then when all of that was happening. These gentlemen were around too, but I don't know how much attention you all were paying. But the bottom line was, I couldn't believe that at first. So we did, being a publication, in effect, a news magazine, we called up their public affairs. And it took some genuine arm twisting for them to finally admit that, yes, they did have weapons. As a matter of fact, what they carried up there were Model 1911 A1 .45 caliber automatic pistols. And lest anybody question the would they shoot on the moon if they were pulled out and fired? Absolutely, yes. Yes.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on that, Don, but go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, the first one is the 1945 is a great weapon, but I'm not sure under the extremes of some of the temperatures that they're talking about, things would have worked. But I've always wanted to ask this question because I've heard this over and over. No disagreement. I'm not the least bit surprised. They were armed. It was a military flight operation. Having sidearms is standard for military ops, and it's not for pleasant reasons, just like the cyanide capsules that they had, just in case they were stranded in space. They had cyanide capsules. They could take their lives so that all those options were there. Are you telling me that you believe that those 45s were someplace on their spacesuit, that they were going to be able to use them on the surface of the moon?
Negative. They were in the lander.
Right.
Okay, good.
So, but you don't think they were carrying them on the surface of the moon to engage with alien activity?
I do not know.
I want to know how people think they were going to be fired. There is no way, unless you have a highly modified 1911, that you could have it in the glove of an astronaut and pull the trigger.
Yeah. Fingers are too big. They don't go in the trigger guard.
Well, Deuce, all I can tell you, my friend, I wasn't there. I don't know, but this is what they told me. Okay. They did have the weapons.
Oh, I have absolutely no disagreement with that. But the insinuation has always been they were armed to meet people that were extraterrestrials on the planet. That's the inference that I've always picked up when this discussion's come up in the past. Not just you, other people have told me about this. And it's not. It's for a lot of unpleasant reasons that you have that. Obviously, the great and the most comforting survival story is the one everyone used. You come down into another part of the world, and you have to defend yourself from wild animals.
Well, as a matter of fact, that's exactly what the spokesperson said to me.
The other part that no one wants to talk about is the same reason you have it in like people that are in nuclear silos. They're armed, so if one person crackers off, the other person can stop them.
Right.
These are really unpleasant conversations to have. But those are things that are discussed when you get into these extremist situations, especially early.
It is what it is. And I mean, you and I both been places where things get real fast. Okay. So yeah, you're absolutely correct about that. But anyway, the spokesperson told me that, well, they have it on board in case they were coming back. And they had to end up crash landing somewhere like a jungle. And I stopped right there. I said, wait a minute. Since when do American astronauts land anywhere except in the ocean? Because that's where they landed. We didn't have the craft at that time to land on the surface. I mean, well, they definitely could have landed on the surface, but it wouldn't have probably been a pretty picture in the aftermath. But no, they always landed in the ocean, and they had no coherent response to that. And the second thing about NASA, and I said there were two examples. Back in the early 2000s, I had a very good close friend that lives a bit north of me. And in that area, just down the street from his house, was one of his neighbors who was a scientist at JPL. And my friend was very much into the overall UFO topic. And they used to, when they would see each other, talk a little bit about that. Now, not all JPL and NASA guys are obviously opposed to the idea of strange technology that may be flying around in our skies. But this guy told my buddy that, by the way, guess what? We just found running water on Mars. Now, this was long before there was any discussion about water on Mars. Well, my friend told me, he said, they got to be making a public announcement about this. So no, it went on and on and on and on. Nobody from JPL came out with that, which is kind of funny when you think about people like Carl Sagan, who of course was deceased by then, but talking about their primary mission was to find life and what have you, out in space on Mars, maybe Mars first. Well, if Mars had running water, and we know there are other oddities about Mars, like periodic methane clouds blowing out into the atmosphere, periodic expulsions of oxygen, one would think that would be a prime place to look at, talk about, and certainly want to go there. Would you gentlemen not agree?
They have cows on Mars?
Huh?
They have cows on Mars?
Why
These
not?
expulsions of methane? I mean, or maybe Norwegian moose. I mean, isn't that a biological product?
Yes, it is. Isn't that amazing?
Huh.
Isn't
With
that
running
amazing?
water. Yeah. And oxygen. How is that possible? What do you think that?
Well, that one would think that would suggest that there are things like, I don't know, fungi growing in the soil, other things perhaps. There's
subsurface activity, that you could have subsurface activity.
I suppose.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, you look at Antarctica.
There's a hell of a lot of ice up there.
Right, and there's water underneath the ice caps in Antarctica. So on that landmass between the multiple miles of ice, there have been large bodies of water, not frozen, that can be tapped. In fact, the Russians tapped it about 20 years ago, and it was quite a discussion in the scientific community, because once you tap it, then you have you've infected it. You have broken its sterility, that its encasement is no longer held in complete concealment or sealment. Excuse me. So again, very extreme part of the globe, and yet there are creatures that live in those waters. We've got creatures that live in the vents of nuclear power plant water exchanges that flourish in that, with low-grade radioactivity as well as very extreme temperatures. You have all kinds of stuff when you have the vents on the ocean floor from volcanoes that attract certain kinds of sea life. It doesn't surprise me. I think
But my whole point about NASA was, don't expect them to come clean on anything. Okay? Now, is that because of academic elitism? Is that because the word has come down from on high? It's hard to say, but my thinking on Avi Loeb and Three Eye Atlas has undergone a bit of modification. On the one hand, I got to say, I give the guy full props for being willing to not only think a bit outside the box, but to have enough balls to talk about it. But then I got to say something else. Now, I've been out here in the Hollywood morass for a long time, decades and decades.
It doesn't show, though.
Over those years, I got to say, I've had a lot of interaction with a lot of Hollywood, okay? Everything from the producers of The blockbuster 1996 movie ID4. I knew those guys. My wife Vicky and I were on a press junket with them and a lot of other things. But my point is, I saw people that have become exposed to that, and it becomes like a methamphetamine addict when they discover meth. They love the sensation. Thank God that never happened to me. But my point is they crave that. And suddenly, Avi Loeb is putting Kim Kardashian on his team. I think Avi might be getting a little of that infection himself. So that's tempered my feeling about him. I don't know how you guys feel about that. But
he might be just trying to expand the brand a bit. I mean, as soon as you put a high visibility celebrity on your team,
Kim Kardashian. Is she going to flash her butt?
Oh, I thought you were going to go for the heavenly body routine. I'm really disappointed. But go ahead, Padre.
Yes. We were talking about another moon. Anyway, what we want to realize here is that with Mr. Loeb, he's taken a lot of flack, and I want to cut him some slack here a little bit, because disinformation is out there that's been saying, he's saying it's an alien object. He's saying it's an alien craft. I have not actually heard him say that.
You need to get up at around 3 o'clock in the morning and listen to him when he's on another program that runs at night, coast to coast.
But has he actually said that's what it is, or has he said
no?
I'm
going to agree with you partially. I'm going to agree with both of you partially. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's putting it out there. He's doing it, but he's also doing it because there's a sensationalism that is allowing him to enjoy that limelight. I don't know the man. I'd love to see if he would show up on the show. It would be great to have him on the show. But I have heard him say in a very cute way that this is behaving like nothing that we've ever seen before. And that's not completely true. That's not completely true based on these other scientists. Anybody in the audience that wants it, I'll send you the pile of articles. Like I said, see us in 2 weeks and get another physicist's view on what is happening with this and what is going on with this. And to me, I think if you take the standpoint that I've been saying for a while, this is all part of the game of bread and circuses with Atlas. This is to distract us. This is to have this world threat. What the hell was NASA talking about? Was it the Interplanetary Defense Committee thing today that they had in there? What does that have to do with fuzzy pictures? You got to be kidding me.
Well, there what we have is we have Atlas and hydrogen showing up, interplanetary hydrogen. Now, let's talk about interplanetary hydrogen for a moment, because there's something going on in space that I think we all need to be aware of. In fact, we already are, but we might not know the result. There are regions of space that have higher densities of substances than others. And Voyager, that probe we launched way many years ago, is way out of our solar system, but we still hear from it. And what we've encountered is a denser area of space that our solar system, which is also moving through the galaxy, is moving into. And this is a zone that has a higher concentration of hydrogen, interstellar hydrogen. It also has magnetic field variances, and it has an effect that impacts the shield, the radiation shield that actually surrounds our whole solar system. And as that is being compressed now, because, well, in aviation, we would call it drag, right? You move into denser air, you have more drag against the surfaces of your aircraft as it moves through. In space, as the solar system is moving through, it comes into a denser area. And it has its effect on the body of the solar system. What this does is it also allows a greater amount of interstellar radiation. The term I wrote it down here is galactic cosmic rays to penetrate farther into the solar system than they normally would. Did you gentlemen have a chance to view the northern lights here recently in your areas? Did you saw them, Cobra? How about you, Don?
No.
No, it's a little too far
Brilliant.
south for Don, and his light pollution's not going to really allow him to. You'd have to be a little bit more up towards Edwards and Lancaster and looking towards the northern sky. He'd have to be up higher. We did see them pretty nicely in Oklahoma when I was there as well.
Yeah.
They did make it quite that far.
Yeah, here in South Dakota, we had a brilliant show. Well, we had the greens, and if you saw you have red and green, and then the lower ones are blue. And what the colors indicate, the red is the highest ones. Those are up there 150 miles or more above the surface of the Earth. Then you have the green is the next color. Remember, these are the result of atmospheric particles that are excited by radiation coming in. And then we had this, some places beginning to report blue. Okay, when you start to see blue, then for the aurora, they're getting closer to the surface.
Right.
Blue is what the lower ones. So we had this, at least in our region, a greater depth penetration than we're accustomed to on those rare occasions that we see the aurora. Now, this was due to a solar flare, but the sun's activity is also picking up. So there is a concern in some circles that as our solar system moves further into this area of denser space, we will begin to see higher amounts of radiation bombarding the magnetic shield, the magnetosphere that surrounds our planet and defends us from these things. So we'll have greater auroras. We don't really know what's going to happen with the sun, but it's possible we could see some more ejections from the sun and of higher intensity. And of course, there's already concern that the Earth's magnetic field is moving. We don't know what's going to happen there, but there's a whole lot going on in this space realm that is potentially of concern. And if this is a psyop, and it probably is, Commander, maybe they're trying to divert our attention from something that's a little more serious. Your thoughts on that?
I just wanted to go back to answer one of the remarks that you made before there, Padre. Mm-hmm. New York Post. Avi Loeb claims Comet 301 Atlas structural integrity supports alien spacecraft. The search assistant says Dr. Avi Loeb has suggested that the interstellar object could potentially be an alien spacecraft, although the scientific consensus leads toward it being a comet. His claims are based on several unusual properties of the object that he believes warrant further investigation. So I think someone of his caliber is careful how he's saying it, but I also think that he's purposely playing those tunes, hitting those keys in the song to get the attention. And there's a number of us that are of the belief this is, as part with disclosure, part what went on in Congress, this is just another act in the play of parading people up, getting them in front of television programs. The only thing I'm waiting for now is to start throwing some money around. That's the only thing that's missing from this. We did it for the former Senate, Harry Reid, when he was the lead of the Senate, and he got it sent off to Mr. Bigelow's setup, and we had stars to the Academy and funding, and we were going to get all the answers. If I remember correctly, Don, we talked about that just before the Padre joined the show. We were going to have the answers. It was guaranteed because we had put money behind it, and we had the right people. I'm sorry. This is being used for, I'm going to save it for a couple of weeks, but this is being used not by accident. I'm not saying that Mr. Loeb is part of a PSYOP conspiracy. I don't know the doctor. Love to? Don't. But I think some of the things that he's putting out are being used just like COVID response, just like everything else, to drive us into some kind of a corner. And I will say one last thing, and I don't want to delve into politics, but the last time this man was president, we went through a really weird period of this on this entire globe. And here we go again.
Oh, there's no doubt that the winds of confusion are blowing hard right now, and I've been trying to stay away from most news, and I got to tell you, it got to the point with me where I practically became physically ill. I had to just get away from it. I just had to get away from it because it suffuses everything. And here we are on this show, the show where we talk about mysteries, aerial anomalies, God only knows what, and it kind of snuck its way in here. So yeah, it's everywhere. It's,
I don't know if you're familiar with another podcaster by the name of Sean Ryan, but he has a special out on PSYOPs now, and he's had some PSYOP experts on his podcast, and it is frightening the extent to which people who know how to do it can manipulate minds these days. And with AI, it's only going to get worse. And that leads us into a parallel discussion with UAP and the idea that there is this ability to put thoughts, even images, into people's brains. Is it possible that malevolent forces of a terrestrial origin are doing that with the UAP phenomenon to keep people at bay?
Let me jump on that first, Padre, if I may.
Yeah.
You guys, well, I know Commander Cobra does. You guys are fairly familiar with the type of work I did in the Army in Vietnam, in Southeast Asia, right? Intelligence type things. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. And before you joined the group, Padre, I know that I talked to both Chris and Commander Cobra about some of these things and my suspicions about the television program that ran a couple of years on history called Unidentified. And that was the program where we were introduced to Luis Elizondo. We were introduced to Christopher Mellon. We were, those that had no in, so to speak, in the field, who didn't know this guy. We were introduced to Hal Puthoff, and we were introduced to the guy from Lockheed Skunk Works that are responsible for some of the most amazing aircraft in all of human history. And it was all about UFOs. And hey, I'm sorry, but screw that UAP business. They're UFOs. They've always been UFOs. They were UFOs going back to 1947, 48, when originally they were flying saucers. But UFOs was more politically correct at that time. Well, why change it now? What's the difference between a UFO and a UAP? But at any rate, those guys for 2 years, and I even talked about it in my paper on disclosure. On that show, there was a consistent and constant drumbeat. And that drumbeat dealt with the possibility that at some point, what if this phenomena is hostile? National security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exactly where we seem to be going right now. And this 3-eye atlas business, and believe me, I have searched the internet like you guys have on a lot of this stuff, and the amount of disinformation that is out there about this blows my mind. And I am blaming a lot of it on the hostile use of AI. Now, I don't think you guys would disagree with that. I've seen allegedly people like Avi Loeb giving talks about 3-eye atlas and the artificiality of it. And I have a friend who just recently retired from the State Department. He worked very closely with that wonderful Christian organization, Christians in Action, overseas. And I got to tell you, I sent that to him because I wanted to see what he thought about that, because he's been very much into this 3i Atlas thing too. And he got back to me and he said, Don, I hate to tell you, but he said, I think that's as phony as a $3 bill. And I said, yeah, I think you're right. That's why I wanted you to look at it. So somebody out there, not necessarily a deep, dark government conspiracy, but somebody out there, maybe a lot of ass clowns that are just trying to have some fun with AI are doing it. But somebody is doing it. And I have become so skeptical of anything I see. Oh, my wife, some mornings when she'll say something to me and I'll tell her, I said, honey, I'm a skeptic. I don't want to hear that anymore. Okay, I got you. But there you go. So I'm suffused with the crap, guys.
Cobra, thoughts?
The backdrop for the first half of the show, the picture that's behind me, it's one of the graphics that was in one of the many fine articles that you sent for show prep, Padre, getting ready for that. I'll actually put that into the private chat, since you guys still don't allow me to talk directly to the folks in chat, and then you can check it and then you can put it into the chat so we can have, two-stage authentication before I directly engage with all the fine people. And thanks to everybody that shows up in the chat room. Someday they're going to allow me to actually type directly to you and communicate with you. Or you can always communicate direct. I can send the article as well. But that particular article that's there from the PWK International site is probably one of the most important pieces that everyone who's interested in it needs to take a peek at.
Well, let's shift into that. And it is from a site called PWK, which stands for Prosper with Knowledge. And pwkinternational.com is the site. And it's very well written. It's like drinking from a fire hose as far as the involvement.
Absolutely. It's not something you're going to absorb in one sit-down reading unless you're going to read very slowly and you're going to take it all in. And it's not an agenda piece. And what I want everyone to understand on this particular article, they are telling you some of the most important stuff that you are going to read, because they're identifying people who want to make money and gain power on this subject matter, and how things have changed and why they have changed. And it's in part because we're at a point now, and I'm going to try to answer the UFO UAP question because it comes up quite a bit, and I'm going to give you my very best that I can on this. We're trying to quantify it. We're trying to put it in a place, in a quantifiable presentation that's going to mean funding, projects, programs, economy, all those kinds of things, as well as possibly actually provide some kind of useful information, defensive posture, things that are going on. UAP versus UFO. UFO is talking about an object. You're talking about something that is a physically measurable object. It's made of some kind of material. It is behaving and doing something. The UAP piece comes in to include a large swath of other activities that are phenomena. Everything from ball lightning to the orbs, to all kinds of electromagnetic disturbances. And this particular article really focuses on how things are being measured, how algorithms, the word of the day, right? I mean, that's all you hear about is the algorithm, right? The AI algorithm, the algorithm that they use to catalog information, the algorithm they use to control your credit card and your credit. But you'll look over my shoulders and you'll see Project Maven and Project Overmatch. and very interesting projects because they both end up going in the same direction. One is a Navy project that is trying to synthesize and network all the weapon systems below the water, on the surface of the water, in the air, and space, so that you can effectively fight and do things. And that's a big part of these things like F-35s and all the other aircraft that are coming online, the ships at sea, and using AI in there. And then Maven is the ability to develop better computational capabilities in these algorithms. And it's not here back in the mainland, but it's in the battlefield. And that's an Air Force One project. So for folks that are really interested, that particular article, I would tell you, get a copy of it, look at it, and I think you'll find an incredibly important source of understanding where things are going, because it's analytically written and its analytical approaches to try to explain why these things are happening the way they are. And I see that Mr. DePerno has joined us.
Chris,
what's up, gang?
Where are you?
I am. I'm in sunny Florida. I'm learning everything there is to learn about murder, and I'm having a good time.
I'm having a good time.
Words there, sir. You look like you're having a good time.
Yeah, I spent a week with the National Homicide Investigators Conference, and we have been studying murder cases throughout the United States.
Now, being a trained observer, Chris, I'm looking at you, and I'm going to speculate you've been chasing the night owl quite a bit.
Yeah, I will tell you the
keen eyes of observation there.
I will tell you that I tried to act 25 last night while I'm 70, and it just doesn't work.
Is that a shower curtain behind you?
Yeah, I'm in a hotel room, and it's not a shower curtain. Actually,
okay.
For my room, I'm in the Orlando Marriott here in Lake Mary, Florida, and they've treated me very well here. And like I says,
don't worry, Chris. We're going to review the Morse code that you're tapping out with your eyelids to find out what the truth is.
Very cool. I've never had iced bourbon before, and I had it last night, and it doesn't have the bite that you normally have, but it does.
That's a good way to keep the old man from getting in there. Iced bourbon. There you go.
Iced bourbon. I will tell you though, it does creep up on you, and if you
tell me it's not true.
It brought me back to my days of 25 for about an hour and a half. And
so, Chris, I'm just curious, just a tiny bit interested, since we're off the topic just a tiny bit, and I want to see how much I can make the Padre head spin here as I ask this. Now, is this ice bourbon on ice, or are they pouring it down the ice slide as you drink it?
Well, pretty close to both. It's actually It's actually in a freezer of sorts. They keep it just very, very cold, and when they pour it, it's almost like you're having a lollipop. And but
it's like a river down a mountain, like an avalanche. Got it.
You drink it all at once. It's a shot, and I go, wow, that's pretty smooth. Let's have another. Please, sir, may I have another? Please, sir, may I have another? And that was the only words coming out of my mouth last night.
That sounds like a graduation after airborne school.
So, Chris, Chris, there's a couple people in the audience asking if you can lift your phone up to get a different angle, and there you go. I think it makes them feel a little bit better. It was like a 60 Minutes interview there for quite a bit of that first part of it, and I think you were scaring people, to be quite honest with you.
Quiet there, but I will tell you that if you want to learn anything about murder, this is the place to come.
Well, ice bourbon and murder. It seems to me that could be a book. That could be like a show all by itself.
It was. No, there's no question about that.
The ice bourbon murders. That could be. I mean, we're practically writing this thing. We'll have the outline done by the time we go to break.
I'm trying to commit suicide by bourbon. I can tell you that.
Well, we already know that you committed bourbon. We've already understood that crime. That crime's already in the books. But I'm sure if you get enough coffee, if you go in there and get enough cocktail napkins, you could start writing that book out.
Now, Chris is a lot younger than I am, and I'm looking at Chris, and I'm looking at me, and I'm saying, "My God, there's something going on here."
Well, I will tell you that right now I am electrocuting my knee. I have this device here because for some reason my knee and hip just went out. It could have been maybe I was trying to do.
Did you slip on the ice? I'm sorry, it had to be said.
It was definitely not a slip on the ice, but it was a slip on something. But I damned if I remember what it is.
To use a Boston-based expression, did you get your bad ice cube?
All I know is that the place where we were at is maybe 25 yards from the door, and it took me 45 minutes to get to the door. So I can tell you, it was an adventure and a journey to get back to the hotel.
So what you're saying is it takes you 2 minutes when you're sober and then a little longer when you've had a few. The difference is staggering.
Well, I can tell you that.
Oh, it had to be said, Padre. I got it. I knew you were going with that.
If there wasn't a brick pathway, they'd still be looking for me. If there was any more woods around here, they'd be sending out the state police looking for me last night. I can tell you.
Well, to loop this into UAP, have you had any missing time?
Well, I think that's coming up in December. It's going to be part of a show in December. But what I want to check in here with is I want to know why he got that show prep, and I'm drinking polar seltzer water, and he's getting, ice cold bourbon or bourbon ice.
H2O, baby.
Yeah. Padre,
Kool-Aid in religious tradition.
Are you like distributing the show preparation notes the same for everybody? Because I'm looking on my sheet here and I don't have anything about bourbon.
I just decided I was debating whether to join you, but I said, "Hey, what the hell? I've already made an idiot of myself for the past couple of days, so I might as well make."
I see. Share it on a global level.
I will tell you, though, all kidding aside, these are some of the best detectives in the United States. They're all homicide detectives. They've got years and years of experience under their belt. And some of the cases that they've done and solved are absolutely amazing. So God bless them if they want to go out and have a good time, Hey,
well, speaking of bourbon, now, some time ago, Commander Cobra very graciously and generously sent me a bottle of excellent bourbon. I cracked it and just had a little bit, and I've been kind of saving it, Cobra, because you suggested at some point you might be out this way.
Correct.
And I didn't want to kill it before you got here. So I just thought I'd give you an update on that.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it within 25, but I'm still planning on the trip.
Having now pretty much exhausted the alcoholic beverage subject for the evening, we should probably wander back into the
UAP kind of understandings here.
The shepherd is shepherding us back, guys.
Yes, he is.
I'm trying to.
And we've hit some bad sheep. Let's just be honest.
Are any of you gentlemen familiar with the Enigma app, the UFO sighting tracker that is available in, say, the Apple App Store? Have you tried any of that?
I have not personally. I am aware of it. I'm aware of a couple others that are out there. In fact, I've used some of them in the past when I've been involved in exercises to see if what I was flying was generating reports.
Interesting.
And the reason I did that is because it would help me understand if people who were, aware that near a military reservation where most of these exercises occur, if it was attracting attention, if people were reporting it.
So there was a an article that appeared in the New York Post late last month, and it pertained to this app claiming that it has received over 30,000 reports of UFOs since it was launched in 2022, but increasingly, there have been more than 9,000 mysterious sightings within 10 miles of U.S. shorelines, 500 of them within 5 miles, and 150 of those discover objects hovering above or descending into the water. A map was displayed showing that where these are, and it's interesting that so many of them are near naval bases and also off the shore of our largest coastal cities. When we come to the topic of USOs, that's unidentified submerged objects, the number of them seems to be on the increase. What do you make? We'll start with you, Chris, since you're in such a jolly mood. What do you make of these reports? You're right there on the coast. Anything going on with USOs there?
Oh, I saw UFOs, Jesus, and everything last night. But I will tell, I will tell you that down in Florida here, a lot of that subject actually came up a couple of days ago, and down in Florida, people actually talk about it quite openly. I was kind of surprised about that, just simply because there is a lot of sightings down in this area. And I will also want to say, Padre, I saw that Sean Ryan show, and that had me really thinking about this whole UFO thing. And I'm totally convinced after listening to that show about psychops that we're in the middle of all kinds of different psychops right now, and part of it would be the UAP thing. I think that there is so much going on with that. I think we're in the middle of a what do they call it? A black swan operation.
Interesting. Commander, your thoughts? USOs?
So to me, as a Tic Tac is ours kind of guy, it surprises me, or doesn't surprise me, maybe a better way to sum it up, that activity is being seen. The thing that I find of interest in these reports is it doesn't seem to be understandable technology to me, meaning if you have vehicles going in and out of the water and you're not seeing a large amount of physical steam splash, there's a lot of crazy manipulation that's going on. And now if you're in the camp with me that believes that we've mastered some very new age, very new technology propulsion systems, and we're not relying on smashing and thermo devices like combustion engines and jet engines, and we're working with magnetism, gravity, whatever else is on there, or other possible capabilities within an atmosphere, within a heavy fluid dynamic atmosphere of air and water. It's pretty interesting. There's other parts. I've had people tell me they've seen stuff crash at the beach, and they haven't. It's just that they could see it, and it went far enough on the horizon that it looked like it went into the water, and it didn't. You start to approach curvature of Earth. There's some things that happen when the sun is down low on the horizon for a sunrise or a sunset that warps light waves. There's mirage activity that goes on that will hide stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that there's more activity, because I believe that particular area of working in the water, plus all the things that we have talked about, this show and a number of other shows, Richard, when he was with us, putting out his book on undersea developments that are, cataloging everything that's happening there. It doesn't surprise me that more people are reporting it. Again, though, I'm always going to throw it up. Here we're all walking around with our Starfleet communicators, and we're able to make TikToks about what we're having for lunch, the type of bourbon and how cold it is. Those kinds of things are hitting the screen. but I'm just not seeing a lot of quality pictures. And I'm going to circle back to what we started the show in the first half tonight. Start with good old NASA and some really crappy pictures. And not a really great production. I'm a little tired of, how great I am. And trust me.
Commander, can I ask you a question, sir? So, you've been in the military a long time. You've seen all stuff. And isn't it amazing that we can read a license plate from outer space?
Oh, here we go. You're absolutely right.
Right, but we can't take a picture of a UFO. Come on. Anybody that knows just a little bit would realize that that's a bunch of crap that they're telling us.
So I think one of the things that we're up against, and this article that we threw into the chat room from the PWK Institute, that's really worth looking at, is describing a lot of that. And what I mean by that is it no longer, people are now at the point it no longer passes muster when you see the grainy photograph, because there shouldn't be any more grainy photographs. The other part that's out there, if you are running a PSYOP and if you are trying to do this, you have to be working pretty hard, because there's too many people around the globe who are experts in interplanetary astronomical objects that are going to come back and say, well, what about this? And what about this? And challenging old pretenses. All we ever heard were comets or ice balls that fly around the solar system, and they come by on this large pattern and they do this. Well, this is not an ice ball. And this follows astronomical and principles that have been discussed about the type of object it is. And then these chemical changes that are occurring because of its close pass to the sun, its heating and cooling that's going on. And I want it all out there. And I want to hear all those scientific voices. And of course, I want to hear what Kim Kardashian has to say. Obviously, the show's over. Right. We're going to have to look that up. So
I got to call time here.
I can read that before I go to sleep tonight, so I know what that great astronomer has to tell me.
All right, Commander, on your sleeping habits, we're going to have to break for the end of our first hour. It's been a rockin' rollin' fun time here with plenty of bourbon flowing, my friends. Join us to see what's pouring in hour 2 on UAP Crossfire.
That hour went fast.
Welcome back to UAP Crossfire with Don Ecker, Commander Cobra, Chris DePerno, and me, Dan the Padre Carlson. We were talking about USOs and transmedium craft and bourbon on ice before the break. And I had a question that's always troubled me for the commander concerning transmedium craft. We know that the farther underwater you go, the greater the pressure there is on a craft. And then the higher up you go, the less pressure is on a craft. And how would you be able to construct something? I mean, water and air, some of the similar physical dynamics go on. You could use a rudder and aileron to maneuver in water and air, but how would you develop a craft and a propulsion system that could handle the extremes of space and deep sea? That's always troubled me.
So you're directing that towards me, sir?
Yeah. Yep.
The problem is, with this discussion, is we're approaching it from the physics that we understand right now. And I don't think that's what we're using.
Okay.
I don't think we are using combustible materials to generate power. I don't even think we're using nuclear reaction to create steam to run generators and run propulsion like we do currently with our submarines. If you remember some of the discussions we've talked about aircraft, especially these aircraft that have been seen that maybe are using standard jet technology with ramjets, to get to hypersonic speeds. But there's this discussion of plasma being around it. One of the reasons that you need to have this barrier is because the front part of the aircraft, even at high altitude, at high speed, is generating temperatures that are going to melt most metals or most materials that could be used. So you're trying to make a barrier. My point is, to me, the only way that this works and works consistently is that you have developed the ability to warp the space that you're at in such a way that you are not in the water. You're in a bubble, for a better term. You're in a bubble when you are in the air. And then you're able to create enough around you so that when you're in space and you go through a part, because everyone thinks space is a vacuum, right? And there's nothing there until you come to this large area where there's a concentration of hydrogen. And if you're traveling at high speed, it's going to give you a really pretty color and a glow. Well, you still could have interaction if you're not able to separate yourself through that. And that physics is not impossible. We do similar things now on a scale much smaller. This is why I say that I think Tic Tac is a manned aircraft. And people say, well, it's not possible that you could have those kinds of G forces, because you're not experiencing Gs the way we would experience them now in the type of craft that we're operating in. That's where I think we're at. That's what I think is happening there. Then if you go into this next part that we talk about a lot, and I think has a very strong possibility, with portals, with all these other things that are happening, I think you have the ability to, again, work in an area of physics we just do not understand. So I don't mean to have a hocus pocus kind of answer, but it seems pretty simple to me that we are not playing by the same rules that we said this is the way it has to be. And that's what I think is happening.
So if I understand you, what you're saying is this craft does not experience the pressure variances.
Correct.
That something, okay. So Don, as kind of our resident historian here in Matters UAP, USOs and things operating in water off the coast of America is not something that is new, is it?
Oh, my God, no. As a matter of fact, Christopher Columbus, on his infamous voyage where he thought he was going to China, and he ended up hitting here in the New World, reported in his logbooks that they saw mysterious lights emanating from the sea. Now, right down, not too awfully far as the crow flies from where I live, I'm in the San Fernando Valley, down at Santa Monica. These underwater objects are seen routinely. And I mean routinely, leaving the water, entering the water. My now unfortunately deceased, one of my best friends, Richard Saraday, taught school at an academy out here. And he used to come out on Fridays when I was doing my show, Dark Matters Radio, on another network. And he would come out every week, and occasionally those kids that were in his class would call us and would talk to Richard and I about seeing these things. Now, Richard and I had planned to go down and spend a weekend or so down there around the water to see exactly if what these kids were telling us were the truth. And believe me, I got many, many, many stories about that when my wife and I were publishing UFO Magazine. Now, a little bit more about USOs, unidentified submersible objects. And this is just speculation on my part. But recently, I rewatched a movie from the late 1980s, around 1988, 89, called Moontrap.
I remember that.
Did any of you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Walter Koenig, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the crux of the film was they encountered on a routine shuttle mission at the beginning of the movie, a derelict spacecraft that was in a huge elliptical orbit around the planet. And when they encountered it, the thing had a degrading orbit, and it was about ready to go down, okay? The Earth's gravity was pulling it in. Well, Walter Koenig, who played the commander, that's Chekhov from Star Trek, for all you Star Trekkers. Koenig did a spacewalk over there. There was some damage in the hull of the craft, and he found two things over there that he brought back to the shuttle and they returned to Earth with. One was a very mysterious, almost football kind of thing, all right, that was in an incredibly hard exterior around it. And they didn't know what it was. The other thing was, believe it or not, a human body that was mummified. A human body, not an alien. They get it back, they do testing and everything on it. Turns out this body was dated approximately 14,000 years ago. Now, what does that scream to anybody that's been paying attention? What if there was an extremely advanced human civilization before the collapse of the Ice Age? Well, because of things that happened, and I'm not going to tell you the whole movie, they end up going back to the moon. And at the moon, they discover what had been a huge human base on the moon. And in this base, they go in and they're having problems and a lot of stuff. Like I said, if you're interested, check the movie out, Moontrap. I think it's 1989. And it's a B movie, but I enjoyed the heck out of it. They get in there and they find a woman in stasis, in suspended animation, that they end up waking up, which, hey, why not? She's a good-looking gal. B movie. Sure, you're going to have a good-looking lady on there. But
well, apparently Dr. Love would put her on her staff, but continue. I don't mean to throw you off.
Exactly. But this gets back to something, and I wanted to ask each of you this question. What if a lot of this is, in fact, the remnants of a human civilization that, for whatever purpose or reason originally, after the Ice Age was over, came back to Earth and went underground? Now, there have been stories, and I mean, I came across many of them in UFO magazine, where people alleged that were out spelunking in caves, caverns, hiking, what have you, meeting anomalous humanoid beings. Now, I've often thought about that. I mean, good God, is it possible that all of these things are ETs coming down to Earth on a flying saucer, or might they already, many of them, already be here? And especially the human appearing, for the want of a better term, visitors that people have encountered. So I wanted to ask you guys, and Chris, I'm going to go to you first.
Sure.
If Padre doesn't mind.
Please.
I'm going to go to you first. What do you think about that? Do you think it's possible that a lot of this could be a submerged or an underground human group that has been living here for a long time?
Well, Don, the only thing I disagree out of the whole thing that you said is that I personally believe that they're underwater rather than underground.
Well, it doesn't matter, either or.
Right, but there seems to be a lot of evidence of... Now, let's take back a little bit, because I believe scientists have said that there's a probability of being at least 4 or 5 civilizations before us. And I truly believe that there were advanced civilizations here on Earth, and the Ice Age, asteroid, whatever, something wiped them out. Now, how advanced they are, that's yet to be determined. However, I do agree that I think that they had the ability to take that civilization outside our solar system and also take that civilization underwater. Because I truly believe there's two civilizations on this planet. There's just too much evidence and too much sightings with watercrafts, USOs, for me not to believe that there's got to be some bases. Because we always talked about bases and stuff. So, yes, the thing that you're saying is, yes, I do agree. I truly believe that in some respect we will find out that deep within the oceans area, because we haven't explored most of the ocean. We've explored more in outer space than we have our own oceans. And as Commander said, and I can't remember what book I read it in, but I know that they were working on technology with torpedoes to be able to create a torpedo in a bubble in order for it to advance in speed, because they, I won't say they use the words a hypersonic torpedo, but in essence, that's what they were trying to do, is to make something so fast that, there's no defense for it under the water. So we have seen so much come in and out of the water that it makes me believe that there's a civilization there. They have residents of that. And I think our government are not going to tell us, because they believe that we're not ready for that, or it's not to their advantage to tell us yet. And that's where, Padre, I think you hit it right on the head on the Sean Ryan show. I definitely believe that these psyops are created to either disrupt us or control us, especially in the UAP.
Padre, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts, the more and more I study, is that all of this is interconnected, and that there are outside interests that are non-human, that have had an ongoing interest in humanity since creation. And I think that the more that I look at this, the more that I read, the more I'm convinced that the Bible is the nexus. It's the hub of the wheel to which all the other spokes connect. Specifically, the story of the fall of man, the story of the rise of the Nephilim, that mystery period we have from creation up into the great flood, which was accompanied, I believe, by additional cataclysmic forces, not just water. You've often mentioned the Younger Dryas, and about 12,500 years ago, a reset, if you will. But I think that these forces which were attempting to create a hybrid human, in ancient mythology, the demigods, by breeding the fallen ones, the watchers, with the females of humans, and creating this abomination of creatures, the Nephilim and others. There's ancient monoliths around the world that have an incredible uniformity of construction styles that match up so much that they have a designation for that architecture. They call it Cyclopean. Why do they call it Cyclopean? And you can Google this and look it up. I'm not breaking any news here. It's traced back in mythology to the Cyclops, which was a race of one-eyed giant humanoids that were the result of the breeding of a god with human women. And again, ties back to the story of Genesis. Well, long story short here, I don't want to get into a theological dissertation necessarily, is that when we look at a race of beings that is basically trying to use humans to create their own species and thereby remove humanity from humans. And as Timothy Alberino explains in that book I mentioned a couple weeks ago called Birthright, ripping good read, guys. It's just fascinating. But this idea that these beings that are extraterrestrial, they're not of Earth, combining with AI, combining with the collapse of human abilities in terms of their mentality, their spirituality, makes us vulnerable to these influences, so that these extraterrestrial entities will appear at a point in time, and maybe not in the too distant future, and say, you guys are toast as a species. Your replacement birth rate is down such, and the sperm counts are down such that your genetic line is going to end in 50 years unless you get some help. We're here to help. And, we've been where you're at. Join up with us. And what we're going to do is we're going to restore to what you once had, the ability to live to be 1,000 years old. We're going to cure your diseases. We're going to show you how to take those cybernetic implants into your brain and upload the entire contents of the internet, whatever you want to know, instantaneously, to merge you with AI and create out of a transhuman experience a metahuman or a superhuman that really now has separated itself from the lineage of humanity. And they haven't stopped. They've been trying to do this, as I said, from the beginning of creation, and they are hiding somewhere. You look at instances like the giant of Kandahar, which was hushed by the military. That story, which we heard from L.A. Marzulli a couple months ago. There are some of them that are living underground. I think there are some that are somehow in Antarctica or under it. And I think that there are some under the sea. You had Congressman Tim Burchett say that there seems to be a concentration of these things, I think he said, in 5 underwater areas near the deep sea trenches. So that's my take on things. Commander, what's yours?
On that cheery note,
yeah,
Commander Cobra.
So, since we're talking about movies, I'm going to throw out a movie I think that has a little bit of input into this. Another one of the great Bs, Hangar 18.
Oh, yeah.
Darren McGarren, space shuttles, UFOs that are near the space shuttle, UFO that crashes, recovered, government cover-up, political intrigue, a president that's running for re-election that made fun of the candidate that he defeated because of UFOs. So they have to suppress the UFO. People are being killed. Quite honestly, the script kind of reads like a lot of stuff that we saw on Capitol Hill not that long ago. I don't say it completely in jest, but I mean, there's some really great stuff out there. There's some really great stuff that I go through the X-Files on a frequent basis because I keep finding more things that they're pulling at. So I agree with all of you in this. First of all, underground, underwater. I don't think anything is living under the water for extended periods of time. You have to have some kind of facility, I think, that protects you. It's highly corrosive. And highly dynamic environment that you would need the ability to transfer and not give away. But maybe there is technology that allows that to happen. I think the biblical crossover and interties, I like the way you said that, Padre, that it is an important hub to all the different spokes. And if you use that mental analogy of the wheel, which follows many world religions, especially in the Hindu belief system, where the wheel and the rotation of the wheel. But if you use that mental picture and you're at a point and you come down a spoke, you have to move in a radial kind of position generally to get to the next spoke or another part and go up or go down. So to me, that's a really effective picture. I would just say instead of a wheel, it might be a sphere that we're talking about that encompasses it. That's just the math major business in me.
Or a bourbon slide.
Or a bourbon slide, which again can be an accelerant. You know where the word spirits comes from, right?
Yeah, I know where it went.
Well, yes, and thank you for being our crash test dummy on this and being very spiritual, Chris. It's very good of you to do that with your name as a missive of Christianity. You know, being Christopher Christianity. It's very good of you to take the put on your cross, so to speak, and take that first. My point that I was driving at is. In the old days when people were in monasteries, monks especially, they would go for long periods of time of fasting. And then they started to realize that if they added just certain little bits of grains into the water, or if the water was polluted with these grains, they were actually able to get a greater sense of course, you could extend your time of fasting. And then they believed they were getting deeper into meditative states and enlightenment. Well, this is why many monasteries were the producers of beers and wines, of course, but the alcohols. And that's because when you drank these things and you didn't eat, they made you spiritual. And of course, Chris could give us another at least hour's worth of show explaining the spirituality of Florida.
He saw Jesus
at Lake Mary.
I can tie in the spiritual drink with the spiritual thing because I've never prayed to God so much in my life.
That's true.
Oh God, get me home, please. Get me.
You definitely went Old Testament 1.2. I'm sure there was quite a bit of biblical offerings that were being done. My whole point on this is that there's no doubt to me that a lot of the craft that we see may be not interplanetary, may not be interstellar. If you look at our own experience of going to the moon, we created two different types of aircraft, two different types of vehicle, I should say, to perform that operation, right? One to go and enter the orbit of the moon, and then another one to make the landing and then the recovery from the moon back up to the vehicle, and then make the transport back. When we are going to do something now with the technology that you see with Mr. Musk and his capability, we may be at the point of having vehicles land and then depart all in one type of the same vehicle. Obviously, there's going to be constraints on fuels and how you're able to generate have enough fuel, enough energy source to do that operation. But if you're going to go to Mars, we've done that. You go to Mars, right? We had an interplanetary vehicle go to Mars, and then what did they do? They flew a helicopter at Mars, right? They had a helicopter drone that they launched out of the landing vehicle that would hop around and fly and do its operation. That vehicle is never going to be able to fly back to the Earth. If you're able to charge that up, you could run operations with that for a longer period of time because it was designed. And the reason I bring up Hangar 18, that's one of the things they talk about, the vehicle that they see there. The vehicle they see there, they realize this doesn't look like something that goes into deep space. This looks like something that operates in near space and around on the Earth itself. So I think they were alluding to the possibilities of basing. Basing underground has some interesting biblical implications because we have always talked about that the creatures that are in the ground, the Hades, the hell aspect, there's always been a rather dark side to that. It's physically a dark place, but it's also a place of really good concealment. It's also a place that if you're going to look for energy sources that are a little bit different, in the geothermal area, you're very close to it. So I think that all works. And as you said, Padre, it fits. To me, it all fits, and it fits if you're willing to. Remember those pictures in the 80s, since we're doing so many 80s and 90s movies, when you relaxed your eye, you could see the shark, or you could see the spaceship, or you could see the Enterprise. I think sometimes we just have to relax our viewpoint a little bit to grab all those pieces. And I would like you all to take a really close look to the poster that I've shifted over to for this part of the show. It has all kinds. What's your favorite aircraft? And if you look really closely, you'll see the USS Enterprise. You'll see Santa and his sleigh in there. The X-Wing fighter from Star Wars mixed in with P-38s and F-14s, F-117 Nighthawks. They're all in there. If you look close enough, there's some really, really fun ones in there. Obviously not drawn to scale. But what's your favorite?
Where can someone get a poster like that? Is that something you just found online?
Me, and it's a very difficult, but somewhat possible that one could possibly get this.
Perhaps through that email address we see on
your screen. You can try, and I will do my best to connect it up.
Okay. Yeah, we have some people in the chat that have been picking out their favorites from that poster behind you. So fans of the B-70 Valkyrie.
Get my large head out of the way so that you can see some other stuff that's in there.
When you just look at that, everybody, I want to call your attention to how many shapes and configurations that have been created to take human beings into the air, and then consider that since I don't see any biplanes on that, most of that has flown within the last 100 years or less. And
including biplanes, they flew in the last 100 years. We just passed World War I, so it's not much more than that. But you're right. I mean, in 80 something years, we went from Kitty Hawk to the moon on our history. I mean, I think there's a good case that can be made for some other things happened along the way as well.
And so when we consider sightings of UAP throughout history, and we go back to biblical and other ancient texts describing the so-called chariots of fire in the sky, or flaming objects, which might be indicative of a fuel-type propulsion system, to through the late 1800s, we had the airship flaps, where people were seeing a lot of cigar-shaped type things. Reportedly, one crashed in Texas, and they even buried the little alien guy there in that particular instance. And then you move up through the flying discs of 1947, and now we're into a place where it seems there are almost as many shapes and sizes as are on that poster behind you, Commander, that we're not the only ones who have.
Again, the article that we highlighted that you asked me to kind of dive in, and I told you how I enjoyed so much. They have a great breakdown chart in there for folks to take a look at that covers a lot of the areas. Don has talked about in the past. Not really Men in Black, but kind of in that vein, that would show up with these 3-ring binders to people that had made reports about what they saw, and they would go through, and it was like a mug book of mugshots that people would look at and point at, look like this. Now, a lot of things that are cigar shaped is because it's on the side. It could be a disc that's seen on the side, or it could be more of a rocket type shape that could be in there as well. So, none of that surprises me that we have those kinds of experiences that come up.
So,
in different ways that aircraft are built and vehicles are built.
That people are describing what is familiar to them. They're framing it in their own minds as to what it is. When you see something in the sky that's, kind of what we might consider a blimp or a dirigible, you might say cigar shape, because that's, you look around, you say, well, it kind of looks like that over there.
Right. Or the profile of the direction that it's on.
Right. Mr. Arnold who I understand he wasn't the one who actually coined the term flying saucer. That was something that the press came up with, wasn't it, as a result of his sighting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And now we have what seems to be transparent or semi-opaque orbs that change size, go through different mediums. Is it that we're being shepherded along in our perceptions by forces that we don't know or understand? Or do we think that these beings that are in control of these things are also evolving and coming up with better craft? What do you think, Chris?
I think the advancement has been right under our noses when it comes to different crafts. I mean, we've seen all kinds of different crafts. When I was working with MUFON, the biggest things you would see in every decade, it seemed to have changed. We went from flying saucers to the big prevalent one now are orbs. People are saying that they're seeing what they consider scout ships that are plasma-based orbs. At least that's the theory. But you see more reports of that. You see more reports now of triangles, which I kind of agree with Commander that that's probably some of ours, along with the Tic Tacs. I have no doubt in my mind that we have gained propulsion. We've gained a specialty type of propulsion that we don't need liquid fuel anymore, or solid rocket fuel. But you know, I think for whatever reasons, we'll never find that out. But I think during the time you see not only things change with UAP, but the design of the crafts. I mean, think about it. We went from a Model T car to now Tesla vehicles. Well, they advance too. They don't just stay stagnant. They advance their crafts to be able to do things like maybe go interdimensional or warp into different time or parallel universes in order to get here. So, you know, their crafts will probably change as much as we have changed our technology.
Well, there's a good comment in the chat that talks about, are we talking about possibly different competing or different, visitations, different races, different cultures, different capabilities? Absolutely. I think it's a strong possibility. Also, let me quickly note, Stan Gordon, who's been on the show with us. I had a quick interlude with him this week as we're leading up to the show. He's had a little bit of a health setback. He's slowed up a little bit, and he was going to wait until December 9, the anniversary of the Kecksburg incident in Pennsylvania. But he actually published that what I put into chat. And again, if anybody listens to the show later or doesn't see the chat, just contact me. I'm glad to send it. And it's a more comprehensive report with some new information of the Kecksburg vehicle that went on that. To me, it's a very interesting discussion what went on there. Was it a manned vehicle? Was it from Earth? Was it extraterrestrial? There's some new publicized information in there that I had heard that Stan has put together about interceptor aircraft shooting missiles at it as it came in, a la like balloons from China earlier in the last couple of years, and the one I talked about the last time we were all together on the show, Swamp Gas My Ass, where the F-106s went out and were shooting at something over the Great Lakes in the 60s. So first, best wishes to Stan for speedy recovery, and although you're slowing down, you're still moving at warp speed for many of us. And he hopes to join us for a show. If not before the Christmas break, he'll try to get on with us again in January. So
best thoughts, Stan. Best thoughts, buddy.
He is. He's something else. He really is. He is really quite an amazing character, and I was really happy to hear from him. So. Definitely worth taking a look at the article, the link, and if you get a chance, drop him a note and say hi to Stan. He's a great guy, and we've always had fun when he's been on the show. I think he knows everybody on this show now. And I know that he had a long run with Don over the years. So, like I tell you, when I drive through Pennsylvania, I normally call him ahead of time just to find out where the hot spots are. And Pennsylvania is one of the most active areas in the country based on the kind of records he keeps.
And cryptids.
Oh, well, he's the one that's talked for years about Bigfoot type cryptids with UFO sightings and multiple layers of reporting. Individuals, law enforcement, physical evidence that was left over. So it's.
I want Don to have a shot at answering that question that we put forward, and that is: do you think, Don, that the visitors, whoever or whatever they are modifying and changing their vehicles, or is it that we are they evolving like we evolve in terms of their transportation, or are we seeing just that many more visitors? Are we the 7-Eleven of the local wing of the Milky Way? People just pull in their various cars.
Well, I've joked that we must be on the off ramp right off the Interstellar Highway. Okay, I've joked about that.
Hitchhiker's Galaxy, Guide to the Galaxy.
Really.
I mean, they blew us up.
Yeah.
Because, we're in the way.
Yeah.
But the different types of vehicles reported. First, let me say this, that they let us see what they want us to see. Okay. And there's been a lot of stories over the years that many of these objects can change shape. Now, how that works, I'm not sure. But I'm sure if you've got the technology advanced enough, they could figure something out. But going back to the days of Donald Keyhoe. Now, I've always had the utmost regard and respect for Donald Keyhoe. And for those who are not aware of, at that time, military major retired Donald Keyhoe, USMC. Keyhoe had been a graduate of the Annapolis in 1922, entered the United States Marine Corps as a Navy Academy graduate. You've got a choice of either going Navy or Marines. He chose the Marine Corps, became a pilot, and as a matter of fact, was the commanding officer of the first air group that flew into Guam. And this is back in the late 20s, early 30s. Keyhoe was injured severely in an air crash, survived, obviously, and then he became a very well-known aviation writer and authority in the 30s and 40s. Now, when the war started, World War II, the Japanese attacked us in December of 41. He was called back in administrative offices, worked at the Pentagon during the war years. But after that was all said and done, and many of his military academy classmates, okay, his classmates by this time had become some very senior officers. One of his classmates, Roscoe Hillenkotter, became the first director of CIA. I think I got that right. So at any rate, he was basically ambushed about the whole UFO thing. And he ended up at first being a total skeptic, but he talked to a ton of military people, and Keyhoe became convinced there was certainly something going on there. And then in the 50s, he became one of the biggest pains in the ass of the Pentagon and the what he called the secrecy gatekeepers, okay, CIA, Pentagon, military intelligence, all these guys were covering it up. He knew it, and he tried to play ball. His big thing was getting a congressional hearing on the overall UFO phenomenon. And they kind of farted around with that until finally something did happen in 68. But by that time, the fix was way, way in. But Kehoe fought the good fight for years. He was the guy that headed up NICAP, the National Investigative Committee on Aerial Phenomenon, a organization that back in those days were definitely the leading lights on this. But in 53, the CIA got together a scientific panel that lasted a week to discuss the overall UFO phenomenon. How do we handle this? Okay, what do we do about this? Not what are they, where are they coming from, what do they want? No, none of that. How do we handle it? And they came to the conclusion, and they even brought up people like a major superstar back in those days, a guy by the name of Arthur Godfrey, and dear old Uncle Walt Disney from the Disney Corporation, to kind of smooth the edges of this whole thing and basically turn it into a joke. And for many years, even decades, that's exactly how it was treated. Right up through the 90s, when I was really active then. And I never thought I'd see the change until, and I didn't like the guy, but 2017, Harry Reid, when Harry Reid came forward with that presser talking about getting $22 million to basically examine the overall UFO thing inside the Pentagon. Now, a lot of questions about that. And I'm sure Chris and I, with pretty much the same background, will tell you there's a hell of a lot of questions that have never been answered to my satisfaction about a lot of that. Like, for example, Luis Elizondo, was there really a Pentagon organization inside the Pentagon? ATIP, did that really happen? Was that really Pentagon or was that something else? A lot of other questions like Christopher Mellon, former Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, suddenly coming out and talking about the UFO topic. Hey, look, I've been banging my head on this since 88. Never in my life would I have believed that was going to happen. So, being the suspicious SOB that I am, I'm wondering, there's got to be connections and hooks to that thing. What's the bottom line? So anyway, that's my take on it, Padre.
Okay, quick,
right.
Padre, I got to jump in real quick. Mm-hmm. Kehoe. He was a source of authenticity to the great B movie from the 50s, Invasion of the Saucermen. If you look at the credits, he's put in the credits. And
he hated that, by the way.
I know he did. Because he felt that it was just cheap sensationalization. But I will say this. That movie, and because his name is connected to it, because of what he had been putting out in the press and what he had brought, because he had a lot of weight when he stepped into this. This reminds me a lot of people who have a moment of conversion where they go, okay, there is something here. There's something that is not explained easily. Lear is a great example to me of somebody who had no belief until he has a conversation with a friend of his who's at Bentwaters, and he is then at that point, converted, so to speak, and to go
too much converted too.
Well,
yeah, too much.
All right, well, too much in that, because here's the ultimate part. I know with the assembled friends that I am here with, I'll put this very succinctly. I don't need the government to tell me what I believe. Unfortunately, I don't find that a shared attribute with a great part of the citizenry that I am now sharing this country with, who need the government to tell them what is real and what isn't. That could be the ultimate psyop. That could be the ultimate thing that has put us to the point that we're at. And I don't throw that out lightly. I throw that out as that is where we're at. If you look at the writings of the greats that are out there, 1984, Brave New World, you take those two books, some people think it's a how-to manual, how to dismantle Western civilization. I look at that as a warning type series of books about where we're at. Our capability has been hijacked in a great many areas.
Everyone okay? Sounds like something's falling.
Something's
down.
crashing in the background someplace. It's not here with me. The dogs are quiet.
Okay. So we have a question posed by Kentucky Skywatcher, and he asks, why is it always assumed that ETs come from unified planets? Why not from a dominant race on a planet that's not unified? I want to take a stab at this, guys, if you'll allow me. Imagine the political upheaval on Earth if it was suddenly announced tomorrow that the United States had interstellar space travel capability and we were able to be in orbit around any number of stars in a matter of days. The political
Can I add on to that just a tiny bit?
Please.
So let's take what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go one step further. The price for that knowledge is that we sign some agreements and some other people get to come down here and go on hunting trips or grinder for interplanetary necessary, to save their civilization. We're signing off on that. We're giving them permissions, authorizations to go do that. And let's go one step further, that we made agreements with a couple other governments just to keep the lid on everything. If that comes out, what happens now to how the merry-go-round of daily life on this planet goes? People showing up at work, people working hard to produce goods and materials and electricity and fuel and food. What is that all? How does that all unravel?
And when we go on those interstellar expeditions, we'll take a couple of Russians, a couple of Chinese, a couple of British, maybe even a Frenchman, okay, to keep them all happy. And hey.
But in addressing the question that Kentucky Skywatcher put forward, what if we didn't? What if we said, okay, now the galaxy is our playground. We're not sharing. And our technology, of course, would be poised to leapfrog everybody else. There would be war on Earth over something like that.
I'm not sure we have the technology to survive easily with a large number of people with the kinds of weapons that we have developed. We have put ourselves in a stranglehold in there.
Right.
So, with that said, the point I'm trying to drive at, Padre, is if we have folks from other planets here, there's a good chance they have part of their population enslaved. And they may see that as a way of doing business. We still have nations on this globe now in the enlightened so-called quote-unquote times that we live in who still think of slavery or whatever word you want to use for it is okay. Yeah, our Christian and Judeo Bible outlines conduct if you are a slave and conduct if you're a slave owner, with all the stripping away some of the terrible connotations that we deal with in the United States because of what we went through in this country. My point to all this is, I think it's highly probable that we may be dealing with alien races that aren't so wholesome, that aren't so homogeneous in their own world. And just look at this as a really interesting place to come down, to grab a cold drink at that 7-Eleven. And of course, if they talk to Chris, he's going to introduce them to the ice bourbon situation, which
I
could be the thing that saves us,
baby.
Quite honestly, can you see Chris, having somebody with one of those giant heads and the ice cold bourbon and pouring it down and killing them? I mean, I could see a comic book turning into a movie right there.
I'd take them all out with one bottle.
Shooters, lighting them up. Now, think about that scene from Star Wars. Think about that scene from Star Wars, the bar scene in Star Wars, the first one.
The cantina.
I see Chris working behind the bar at the cantina right now. I've had like a revelation.
I'm bringing to mind a certain Star Trek episode where Mr. Scott drank some aliens who weren't very friendly under the table with something that was just green, and was able to take back the ship as a result.
I gotta tell you, I think grasshoppers are the universal destroyer of all civilization. That drink is one of the most evil things I think that has ever been concocted on this planet and any other.
Oh, well, I mean, having never had one, I suppose.
Look, my former spouse introduced me when we were dating to something called a rusty nail.
Oh, I've heard of those. Yeah.
A rusty nail is basically
Drambuie.
some scotch and Drambuie.
Yeah, and you use ice to make the nail.
And she told me, she said, before you drink this, I want to warn you, it's like a woman's breast. One is not enough, and two is too many. So, and I found out she was absolutely correct. Oh my God, was it good?
I am so happy that you took the lead on this particular show tonight.
I am reminded of a visit to an establishment that no longer exists. It was
a reform school? And three of the pupils at the reform school look like Don, myself, and Chris?
No, it was actually in Las Vegas. They used to have something there called the Star Trek Experience that was a fun thing. And they had a place called Quark's Bar. But they had a drink there that was called a Warp Core Breach. And it came in a goldfish bowl the size of a basketball and was blue and had fumes coming out of it. And the challenge was if you could consume the Warp Core Breach, you would get a certain prize. Well, anyone who tried was carried out. But I mean, it's novel marketing thing.
Obviously, they never met Chris DePerno.
That's right, baby. Hey.
In fact, in the interest of research, Chris, when you go down to the bar later tonight, ask them, may I please have a Warp Core Breach, and see what they serve you?
Here's the problem. The bar is free. So you know there's 150 people down there saying, baby, let's go for it. I mean, you got to know. I mean, come on, Don. You got to know that if you're telling a bunch of cops that the booze is free.
I'm jealous, man. I am so jealous right now.
I hope you're checking your sidearms at the door there, because in Florida it's an open carry state there.
Oh, I'm in the safest hotel you could ever believe.
Sure.
I think they lock them up all in the safe before they go downstairs. But I will tell you that this conference has been absolutely amazing because, during the day we're all serious. I mean, it's a very serious, very grueling conference. But at night, you study hard and you play hard.
Well, gentlemen, we have mixed a whole lot more than UAP topics tonight here on UAP Crossfire, but our time has come to a close, and it's time for us to wish everybody a very happy and blessed Thanksgiving.
Aren't you glad?
Absolutely.
Make sure that everyone takes a moment just to remember the things that we need to be thankful for. It is easy to look at things going on in the world in despair, but take a moment to cherish your family, the things that you do have in life. Don't be thrown by the things that you don't have. And offer a silent or even uttered prayer to the Almighty of thank you for everything that we have, because we're Americans and we are truly a blessed people.
Amen, Padre. Amen.
Amen is right.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Okay, with that, everyone, thank you for being the greatest audience in the planet.
December 4th.
That's right. 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be back, iced bourbons in hand. Good night from UAP Crossfire.